I haven't talked well, after being in the ER today, I don't have any emails from him, but I haven't had a chance to look. I'm like, let's see who's coming, maybe just we run it.
Does he allow it?
Has everybody had a chance to sign in if you would like to talk during public input or?
Does he allow it?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there is a spot in the back.
Nobody uses it.
Is that Dwight? Did you sign in? Or is it Daryl? Did you sign in Dwight or did Daryl?
And they're running. This is just the other part. Just want to make sure I'm gonna get through the allow for-
And then David?
No way.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey. It's going. How's it going?
Dwight. That's the next one.
How's it going?
Wait, go after.
Just, yeah, Dwight's fine.
I don't know.
Right.
I bet the kids are paying, but, schoolwork.
Six. Call the meeting, May 13th, city council meeting to order. Please rise, pledge allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Johnson? Here. Light? Here. Bendel?
Here.
Basky?
Here.
Hubert?
Here.
Open public input. David Evans,
Yes, sir.
please take the podium.
Live at 102 East Jefferson. You guys are trying to vacate my alleyway, which is the approach to my driveway, to my garage. It's been there for 80-some years. You guys are tired to do maintenance on it. It takes you 5 minutes to plow it. I ask maybe every other year to drop a little gravel in there. Because back when I had a car, I drug coming out of there. Why is that? I just want to know why you guys are trying to vacate my alleyway. The access to my garage. No answers?
It's not being vacated.
What I heard it was, because the one going north and south was getting vacated. It's already been vacated. If it's not,
If you would like to speak.
If you would like to respond, city administrator.
So currently tonight on the agenda, we do have a discussion regarding alley and right of way. There was a partial vacation that was done on, I don't know, like
West,
West Washington, I think.
East
The
Washington.
discussion that we will have tonight is not about a vacation. So if you would like to stay and during the old business and listen to the discussion that the council and the mayor will have, but the clarification is there is a difference between a vacation and maintenance, and that will be the conversation for other alley and right of way in the city. Okay.
Terry Nolan,
Alright. I think that we need a four-way stop on the top of Brush Avenue. And I think it's Brush, and then the street that the bar's on, what is that?
Wood.
Woods. Yeah, I think we need a four-way stop there. it's just a roll of the dice if you don't run into somebody in the morning when you're coming up that hill. You stop and you ease your way out there and you still run into somebody or you have to stomp on your brakes. And I've heard about, this is just hearsay though, about kids having some problems up there. And so, yeah, we have one over by St. Mary's. And I think it'd be better to have one over there too, because it's just a very sketchy proposition. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is, the people in the apartments have, on the same stretch of property account, they all are allowed to have dogs, but they have no place to deal with their dogs going to the bathroom. And the people that own the property in that surrounding area have to deal with it. And so I think something has to happen there. If you, anywhere around there, it's a shit show. Literally. So, yeah, I think something has to happen there. Either the person that owns the apartments needs to take responsibility, or there needs to be an ordinance or something, because it's no bueno.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mallory Murphy.
So this is in regard to the alley that will be likely ill-maintained, not maintained by the city, I should say. Similar to what David was talking about earlier. So I live in East Jefferson Ave South, which is north of that alleyway. We moved in back in 2023. We moved in October. The property was vacated for about 10 years. So in the spring of 2024, we reached out to the city and asked for gravel to be placed to where there was grass, just to get back to our garage, which at that point was city maintained and is to this day. At that point, I had spoken to Trent, who then moved in Jennifer, on a request. And at the time, we were told it was a maintained alley that was valid. Due to gravel alleyways being questioned at that time on our request, the inquiry basically went into the trash at the time. It was disregarded, my email was never responded to. At that point in time, I simply asked for the city to display gravel so we could get rid of those ruts in the way, with no response at all. We really wanted to figure it out on our own. At the time, we invested upwards of probably $1,500 to lay gravel, again, on, as of right now, a city maintained alley. That's not even including the time and fuel and the labor to spread the gravel. We feel as if it's one of our rights to be upset about the situation, given all of the issues up to this point. For the city to suddenly not maintain a 200-foot alley would put us in a very difficult and critical situation. We would then have to get equipment to remove snow. That's huge for us. It's a 200-foot alley. We don't have the equipment to do so right now. We would have to get small tractors to clear all of that. In my opinion, the cost over the course of a couple of years for the city to continue to maintain that is a lot less. In the grand scheme of things, it could be maybe $600 over the course of 4 years, which I don't think is an over-exaggeration to ask on our part as a taxpayer to continue that option. During the last meeting, I'm not a great public speaker. The building out back was referred to as a shed. It's not a shed. It can house up to 4 cars back there. With the harsh winters, all of those cars would be trapped in that alleyway without the help of the city and the plowing that is already in place. We request that you keep in mind, we would appreciate the maintenance plan that's already in effect. And think that that's a very reasonable request given the circumstances.
Thank you. Dwight? Sorry, I can't read the last name.
Oh, I'm sure you know it. I'm here because I have a lot of questions about this. Who keeps coming up with these flower garden ideas? Who keeps coming up with these flower garden ideas? The
Parks?
Who keeps coming up that we need more flower gardens?
Parks and Recreation, I think, is that what you were saying?
Do you folks have any idea how much time it takes to maintain these things? I myself was in an accident here about a year ago, and I took out 5 big flower gardens, which actually, if you took half of them, would be a lot bigger than what you guys are even planning. And I know how long it takes. I know the cost to maintain this stuff. I used to take care of estates on Rosedale Road. If you're not familiar with that area, that's where Clark McLeod, the Staymates and Hedges and all those people live that have 11 to 15 acre estates. I just cannot believe that you folks want something else to maintain. Well, you've got a welcome to Urbana sign out here that hasn't even been pruned from last year, with last year's dead growth. You go up a few more 100 feet, it's a farmer's market, little flower bed there, all overgrown. Yeah, this mess outside of the city hall last year, that the previous mayor was humiliated, so they dug it out the next day with a backhoe. And then what really is really good first impression, not that because it's been straightened out, you've got flower pots out here on your retaining walls with 3 years old crap that's been dead. You guys can't even maintain that. How do you intend to maintain this and this other pollinating garden or whatever? Sure, you can say it's a grant, it's not gonna cost us anything, but where does this grant money come from? It comes from all the taxpayers, not just us, everyone. And back in 2000 and 2005, this land up here was set to be for the development for businesses on the main drag to bring back, revitalize our downtown. And now we're gonna put like a flower garden there that probably will be a patch of weeds, because I'm sure if you get a few volunteers, it's not gonna last, it never has. It's just gonna be another weed patch. And your employees do not have the knowledge to take care of things like that. And like this mess up there, you hired Blooms out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to put them little benches and things.
Thank you, sir.
That sure don't surprise me, does it, you guys? And you can even keep that money in the county. And I would love to stick around, but like I said, I was in a car accident and it's very hard for me to say. But that's food for thought, you guys. You should get with your neighbors and your family. And
Sir?
tell them to start paying attention to their surroundings. Settle
Thank you,
down. Show some respect.
Thank you, sir. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Hubert?
Yes.
Maskey?
Yes.
Bendel?
Yes.
Light?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to open a public hearing pertaining to the application of the CDBG funds from the Iowa Economic Development Authority? These funds will be used to create a pocket park.
I'll motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Bendel?
Yes.
Hubert?
Yes.
Vasky?
Yes.
Light?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Public hearing is open.
Okay, right, so tonight we do have a public hearing for the city of Urbana for a pocket park CDBG grant. So information has been shared, since we found out about the opportunity to apply for such a grant, which is particularly for a 0.25 acre, it needs to be a 0.25 acre lot. So this concept has been discussed with the Parks Board previously to other grants that were available, in discussions where we were discussing where to locate pollinator parks. This had been brought up, a couple of times actually, for the need for a social gathering space. So as you know, if you've lived in Urbana, for example, Urbana Days has, typically will close the entire street. We do have a local business in the district that has closed the street because there's not a specific area where people can socially gather. So this is the first year, I believe, the Iowa Economic Development Authority has put out this grant. So the city thought that we could go for an opportunity like this to see what we get. Part of the grant, which is a lot of what's gone out on social media as well as the website, was the information regarding, because this is federal funding, there was a LMI income survey, which is a requirement, I think, of all CDBG grants, most all. So that is a low to moderate income survey. So in particular, how this had to be figured was we had to take the location of the grant proposal, and I think I explained this a couple of times, but from that location, we have to build a 10-minute radius from the park location. So within that 10-minute walk and radius, there were approximately 300 residents. And from the 300 residents, we had to do a sample low to moderate income survey that was randomly selected. Since ECOG is helping to administer the grant and the process, they did the development of the survey, which meets the requirements of CDBG. They also were required to do our random sampling so that the survey is not anonymous, but it was confidential. So when the surveys went out, that simply means that there is a master list of the addresses that it goes out to, but all of the surveys, when they come back, simply have a random number on them. So for example, when they're returned, the city office personnel would know, obviously, because they're scanned and sent back to ECOG. So in order to qualify for this grant, we do have to have 51% of the surveyed people to meet low to moderate income. And we do not have all of those surveys back yet. The grant is due May 22nd. So again, tonight is an opportunity to share more information. We also have kind of a rendering from the landscape engineers that will be working on the project if we were to receive the grant. Just to kind of share a little bit with the concept that is up there. I also printed it for you. This is a very short amount of time, so we simply gathered, we've actually only met virtually with the parks and parks lead and the engineer to just give them an idea. So this concept is what came in when they actually submitted their application. And so we just made some minor tweaks to this concept because we don't know that we have the funding yet, but we did want to be able to give people in the community an idea of what this could look like. So one of the things that we did kind of want to keep, we knew like some of the history, that there had been a gazebo or two gazebos in the downtown that kind of had the grain bin type look to them. So that's where we wanted to kind of keep a tin rustic look to that park. And the rest of it is native pollinator. We do find value in the native pollination, and this would also be part of the cross-pollination that will happen between the pollinator garden, Central Crossing Park, as well as the few small areas here that will have the landscape pollinator planting to it. It will be ADA accessible, so we want to be able to reach all members of the community. That's why we did include kind of like a porch swing type idea there. There is something within the grant that certain structures have to be, tell me again, not
Yeah,
removed or removable.
Everything will be fixed.
Fixed, it has to be fixed. So the concept was that underneath the pavilion-like shaded structure, we did want to keep it somewhat open. We feel that this would be an opportunity that if we were to bring in, or a community member brings in local music or things like that, we wanted to make it as versatile still as possible. So if somebody came in, there was actually lawn where lawn chairs could be brought in. The idea of being able to have picnic tables there, things like that, still keeps this somewhat versatile for the community to use. So with that said, the total amount that the city will be looking at in a grant, which I would like to put out, that yes, taxpayer dollars do pay for local and federal grants. However, if you don't go for local or state, federal grants, then your taxpayer dollars go to another city, town. And therefore, I do believe as a city administrator that it is important to go for opportunities that will better our community and bring some of those taxpayers' dollars that are already going out, state and federally, and bring them back to our community. That's why these grants are available. That's why opportunities are out there for communities. In the past, the city has not necessarily had someone in a position that has been able to provide opportunities like this to come back to our town. So I do take pride in being able to find opportunities like that that will come back to the community of Urbana. With that said, we're looking at approximately, which when I sent the information to you, we didn't get the actual budget back probably until right before the meeting. I do apologize, I had a family emergency, so I didn't get back here until a little bit later. But Tom and I were able to get this printed off, so I think the total grant amount that we're gonna try and go for is $149,719. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the local match, which can be in kind or cash monies, is the $49,906. So for example, what I'd like to share there is the same type of opportunity that happens that when we have some of these larger projects like this, if we have opportunities where we can do some of the work possibly, which depending on the scope of the project, if we can do some of those things in kind, that would be the hope that we could do some of that in kind. So these three resolutions that'll be presented after the public hearing, those are just very specific to also the requirements of the grant. If you take a look at this particular budget, did you want me to go into that or did you want to share more about that? This particular piece right here is where we were trying to reflect on the left would be the grant, and then we highlighted in green where we thought specific things that could be possible in kind would come from the city. So that's where we were highlighting the different areas to get close to the 49,000 percentage that the cities match, whether it's in kind or monies or both, would come there. So that's the budget piece of it. And because this is a CDBG grant, did you have anyone that signed in to speak other than that part on the CDBG?
There's
Okay.
no one applied for
The public input for this part?
input on
Okay, so
the.
because this is a CDBG grant, there are some very specific things that Tom's going to go through now for the actual public hearing part where unfortunately, a lot of it is federal, so he may have to actually read some of it from the computer. So is this a good spot to just kind of turn it over to you?
Sure, yeah.
Do you guys have any questions so far? Because that was kind of a lot to like throw out there.
I have questions, but I don't know if it's
We can go through what Tom has. first.
Okay.
So and a lot of this will be similar to what is stated already, but the minutes will need to reflect this. It's a IEDA requirement.
What he's going through would probably be in this packet.
So, yeah, I'll read this and then I can go through those are the kind of application materials and I'll go through what those are. But there's like 9 elements that I have to get through, so yeah, as concerned with how the need for the proposed activities was identified, the city currently has 1.66 acres of parkland between Central Crossing and the Pollinator Park. And that comes out to a total of 1.07 acres of parkland for 1,000 residents. And according to the National Recreation and Park Association's 2023 agency performance review, the median amount of parkland, so there would be 50 median amount of parkland per 1,000 residents for communities under 20,000 is 13 acres. So the city is quite a bit under that mark. I was concerned how the proposed activities will be funded and the sources of funds. As we said, the current project estimate is $199,625, with design and construction estimated at $179,625, and then $20,000 in granted administration and potentially historic preservation costs. There is an amount in the budget that's on the way high end, so there's less potential for to have to come back and talk about historic preservation costs, which is kind of just, I think is not very likely to be an issue, but you never know. And then grant assistance is being requested from the CDBG program to help support the total cost of the project. That's concerned with the date of the application. We submitted by May 22nd, 2026. As concerned with the requested amount of federal funds, that request is $149,719. And then, as concerned with the benefit from federal funding, again, the qualification for this project is the low to moderate income benefit. And so again, what we did for who would be most likely to use it on a daily basis would be the households within a 10-minute walk. And that's 300 households. And that would be an estimated population of 842 people with the city's current average household size of 2.8. And again, to qualify for federal funding, at least 51% of that population, as we established through the LMI survey, would have to be low to moderate income, so it would serve at least 430 LMI persons. And then as concerned with where the proposed activities will be conducted, the pocket park is proposed at the city-owned parcels at 311 West Wood Street in Urbana. And then as concerned with plans to minimize the displacement of persons or businesses as a result of the funded activities and plans to assist persons actually displaced. Because of the nature of the project, there's no property acquisition, the city already controls the site. And there's no housing or businesses on that property, so there wouldn't really be any businesses that would be temporary or permanently, that would permanently lose access for the project. So there won't be any displaced persons because of the project. And then, as concerned with the nature of the proposed activities, the grant project comprises the construction of a pocket park in the city's downtown. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention on there was the, again, with the historic preservation, think the most likely outcome is that the city would have to do a desktop review with a qualified historian or archaeologist. And because it's on previously disturbed ground that was a business, probably the most likely outcome is they say that additional investigation, like the presence of historic or cultural artifacts is not likely. But there's additional money included in the budget in case that does become an issue. So, and that was $5,000 to include the desktop review, which would be a small portion of that, and then some additional funds if they came back and said that archaeological investigation should happen. But I wouldn't anticipate, we'll get the full depth of the excavation that would be required for it, but I don't think it would be extensive. Which would further make it less likely that we'd have to do that larger scale investigation. So, I do have one other component as far as the grant application that I have to cover during the public hearing, and that's the community development housing needs assessment. And so we'll need to take a few minutes to ask for some input. But this could be a good time to stop or to pause for a few questions before we do the community development housing. But there'll be like 3 broad questions that I'll ask and can take public input on that as well.
My question is this just for the perforated line outline park, or would this include fixing the sidewalk, city-owned sidewalk that butts up against the street?
I believe that was, but I don't believe that's enough too much. So I think there would be a possibility that could be part of the project, but that's in the budget. It's not included in there right now.
So I think it's just concrete sidewalk.
Because that sidewalk,
Well, actually,
that would be a waste
oh yeah,
of time to not fix that process.
was that?
That sidewalk is in really bad shape, so if we're tearing into all of that, then it's.
I mean, it's not ADA compliant
No.
today, so we would have to do something.
So it looks like it is on the picture. I think maybe we should just confirm it. That's part of where it says concrete sidewalk, so that's a good question.
So I think we would have some flexibility to refine the plans a little bit too.
Other questions?
Is that from anybody? Anybody can ask questions?
Well,
That's for you guys.
be doing the community development housing needs assessment and leaving it open for.
Unfortunately, no one signed up to speak for this.
I still wonder who's gonna maintain it.
We have that noted in your previous comment.
But you have to, if you plan this out, you have to have some idea who's gonna maintain it. I would think.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure there weren't any other questions. So for this segment, part of what IEDA requires is a community development housing needs assessment. So I guess normally this is where I would be asking for like, input. The three items are, the community development housing needs of LMI, the low moderate income persons in the community, other community development housing needs, so just more generally for the community, and then plan their potential activities to address housing and community needs. It's, not by meeting room, but typically at this part of that, we would kind of seek input from wherever it could, either from the public, so.
So activities, needs, and rationale for, the first one was what? Housing
the
needs
community
for
development-
LMI
Yep,
person?
community development and housing needs of LMI persons.
We have a question over there.
Yep,
I was looking closer at that picture because you had the question. It looks like the existing sidewalk is excluded by this picture. If you look close enough, you can see the dotted lines. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like we were saying, this picture was just a draft, like concept, it's certainly not exactly. So I will find out about the budget of that as well as the sidewalk for Ash and Wood.
I probably have to double check the grant required, or what the grant allows to, I think sometimes they have a little bit more leeway for what they call removal of architectural barriers, which is kind of making things more accessible. So I'll have to see if the grant would, can like extend it into the right of way and the sidewalks. So, but we'll double check on that.
So you're asking at this time, council as well as our community representatives here, if anyone feels that there is a need in Urbana, housing needs in Urbana? Is that all?
Yeah, community development and has, just what is needed for the lower moderate income population in the community. I didn't
understand what you guys just said. What did you say?
So low to moderate income are people, and do you have one of the surveys that would show? So there's an income level which would categorize certain individuals as well as families as low to moderate income. So specifically, this used to be what I believe, communities, it was HUD, is that correct? Was the opportunities that came for or low to moderate income, was it previously HUD?
it's on money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it comes through the state, but it's,
So basically for individuals or families that have lower income, do we have a need, do you think, in Urbana for housing needs that could help meet the needs of low to moderate income individuals or families? And I can't say off the top of my head what the income level is without that term in front of me.
Well, right now, that area is a place for dogs that belong to people that don't have a place to go, to take their dogs to do their business. So when you're worried about what they're gonna do to maintain it, that's what they're doing to maintain it right now.
Oh, that's nothing.
That's what's happening right now. So maybe if we get a park built there, maybe they'll stop that from happening, because that's what's happening right now. If you wanna walk through that green space right now, you better be aware of what you're walking through. Because it's,
Well, they couldn't force to
I'm just saying, you're tipping through you're tripping through the tulips right now. It's not good. But maybe it would be better if it was maintained as a park,
Maybe, but
because it's not good right now.
Who's gonna police it?
I imagine the town, I don't know, maybe there'd be an ordinance instead. If it's actually something that belongs to the town, you probably write an ordinance, to stop that from happening.
years ago, that was.
Maybe there could be one anyway, I don't know.
so at this point, I just need the input for the community development housing needs assessment. So just the ideas that you have. Give you an idea, for a family of four, that would be an income under $79,000 $5,800.
We should go knock on their door. Maybe they could give you information.
Well, the low income apartments,
They did.
it's always got one in.
One at a time, please.
I'm sorry, what was the comment?
The low income housing always gotta seem like a place empty.
There's a vacancy in the.
Yes. I don't know what the proper name is, it used to be the senior citizens center, but it's all, anybody can be there.
Are you referencing like a specific location in town, or are you just making a general statement?
Specific location, you're talking about low income, well, you got empty old low income apartments, so.
Jennifer, do you know where he's talking? I think he's talking about
Okay.
Which, just to be clear, that is included in our survey area. So
Right.
people were randomly selected and had an opportunity to submit a survey or make public comment. So thank you.
Yeah. One thing we did as part of the survey too, and again, it's still ongoing, but for the responses that we have so far, 83% said that they supported the project.
I was gonna ask, we sent out a survey on this, didn't we?
So we
How
have
many- how
mailed
many-
surveys twice, and we've also had individuals go door to door to get surveys back. If they're not at the door, surveys were left. So after tonight, we'll probably do another send out of surveys again. Probably will include the actual concept. I think there was some misinformation out there that this would be a children's park. It's not necessarily a children's park, but a social gathering area. So that, and each time that we have done the mailing, it includes the survey with a 2-page front to back. So it has all the information about the grant as well as questions and answers on the back to try and get as much input, information about it as possible. So yes, so we've sent out twice, door to door, and then we'll probably do another push here before the 22nd.
What were the results of the?
So far, did you say 83%?
For support for the project, and then it wasn't, 17% against, there were some people that just didn't respond to the question, and like 1% actually responded. And then, with the current results, but it fluctuates a fair amount at that level, it's from 43% LMI, so.
So we have to get to 51%, right now we're at 43%. So I think, yeah, the more information that we can keep putting out for the people that,
We had 43% of the,
we have
surveys came
43%, we have to get, no, so we have to get 51% of the households meeting the low to moderate income.
Okay.
Right now, we have 43%.
Okay.
So the more surveys that we would get back would likely increase that number, because the threshold would be like getting to the 51%, right?
We have to get to.
Yeah.
and if we don't get to the 51%?
Then we would not qualify for the grant.
When is the grant due?
May 22nd.
So we have till May 20, May 22nd to get up to the 51%.
Right after the deadline, right? It's
Uh,
due the 27th.
yeah, I can have everything else for trade before that, so.
You might have said this already and I missed it. How many surveys did we send out?
So we started with, the random sampling is 200 of the 300. So there's 300 homes in the area.
Okay.
There's 200 of the random sample that we've sent out. Now this next time, since we've done like at least 2 full mailings plus a door to door, we may be able, like if we get what we can, I don't even know if we go into that, but if you get a non-response, like say we've sent a particular home 3 times and got no response, then we can do, I'm gonna just say random shuffle because I don't know how it's done, but you basically get a random shuffle and it can kick back like, here's 30 more for 30 people that didn't respond. But it still comes out of that 300 bucket, which is the radius of the 10-mile block or 10-minute block.
And how many have we received back out of the 200?
we-
70.
Right now, only 60 are like valid, because some people didn't fill in the income information, so that
Sure.
that doesn't, it's not helpful, so.
Got it.
So yeah, probably the door to door will be key for getting it completed. So I have the two other items on there. Wasn't hearing anything else for needs for community development and housing needs for low market income persons, unless there's any other. And then just generally needs for the community. I do have park space in here. Since you know that that's low compared to one national benchmark, so just kind of general needs for the community. So I can take it from the council or the public.
So any general needs.
Yeah, community development has needs, so not limited to the element population.
Is there a dog park in this town?
Is there a what?
A dog park?
Not currently.
Because it sounds like you need some space for people to go and run their dogs and use the restroom and pick up after themselves. And personally, I don't live in this town, but I'm here to support it. But you want, dogs have to go to the bathroom somewhere. And people don't unfortunately pick it up, but I think I'd rather have them in a field somewhere in a fenced-in area for the dog to be safe, they can run and use the bathroom, and hopefully they'll pick it up there. But if you're asking for this here is a really nice space, the dogs unfortunately are gonna go to the bathroom there. And that's in a really nice area you guys are trying to do, so I don't know who's gonna, that might be something to look at. And you got another spot that's got some grass somewhere, put a fence up. I mean, I can tell you, if you survey somebody that's low income, they probably want somewhere to take the dog. Because if they're in an apartment, unfortunately, they don't have a backyard.
Thanks everyone for the input. The last item was just plan or potential activities to address housing and community needs. So this one might be more of a council, but it could be anyone topic. So just projects that are.
I just have one. I do know sometimes City Hall does get phone calls of asking about rental spaces. If we know of like houses to rent or apartments to rent in town. So I think that is probably a need. But of course, that could have to do with the housing market. It could have to do with low to moderate income. It could have to do with a lot of things.
And then just for planned or like kind of planned activities you have related to housing and community needs. So these could be
With
things
the
that are like kind of-
sidewalk project, the Safe Routes to School project.
I just want to go on record and say I have zero iota of care for people that get pets that go to the bathroom somewhere where they don't have a plan of how to take care of it. None. I don't want our town to somehow facilitate that. I don't think it's our job to facilitate people who buy pets without a plan of how to take care of them, and for us to somehow provide a space for them to defecate, whatever you want to call it. No, I'm not for that,
But you're
on record.
enforcing an ordinance.
If you want to allow them to do something and then they don't do it, then yeah, absolutely. But I am not about, you buy a dog, you get a cat, you do whatever you do. I'm not here. I don't think that it's our job to help you take care of your pet. So, I don't think we have to build a facility to help somebody have his dog take a dump somewhere. No, I don't know. No, you buy a dog, have a plan.
Thank you, Terry. Let's get back to the pocket park.
Yeah.
I think you could put in there, this is previous though too, but Terry did mention, a safety need or a safety concern with a four-way stop. Maybe looking into something like that, that's kind of in that same district area.
Yep. And what was that?
It's a four-way stop,
Wooded
Corner of
Wooded
Brush Road.
Brush, which would be the same area, the pocket parking. Any other,
Planned or potential activities
um,
for housing and community needs?
Well, we did our plan, right? We've already put that together for the next 5 and 10 years. That's all, what's all on
yeah,
that.
I mean, we can put that in there, that the city has prioritized a capital improvement plan. It goes through 2029.
Okay. And there's some utility upgrades right now.
So the Safe Routes to School project, going to be it's a city-funded project right now, but there's also, a grant that will be due in October that the city is going to go for that grant to help also with that same Safe Routes to School.
Right. And then I'll follow up with some of these things later, so that get all the details in the meeting. So that's all I need for the redevelopment housing needs assessment. Oh, yeah, the borrow your. Yeah. Just in terms of the application materials, just going over, this week, which is one of the resolutions about the documents that we submit with application. There's the specific certification of procurement compliance. So since it is a federal grant, there's a lot of the rules and regulations that go along with it, and that's why we would be the grant administrator if there's a project funded. And then the first one is just about competitive compliance, but just like I worked with the city on the RFQ for the landscape architect, we would be a resource to go through the any procurement that needs to be done. Most of it's just going to be would just be the public bidding. And that's going to be really just processing some other requirements. And then there's a required acknowledgement of environmental review requirements. So there would be an environmental review required as part of the project. And I would do most of that. I'll actually draft it as part of the application, but I won't have all the details. I'll finish it afterwards. But the best way to lose grant funding that's been awarded from the federal government is to make a choice limiting action prior to completing an environmental review. So basically that means until we complete the review, the only work that's really going to be done would be the final design work to continue with the landscape architect and the drafting of the construction documents. But just the kind of the grant administration work to get required policies in place and get the environmental review done. So that's basically what all that can be done from the time the grant application is submitted until the environmental review is approved. Then there's this next one, the 424B, is just the application, basically the application, but it says that the city will meet these requirements, which would look similar to all the kind of standard contract requirements that contractors have to have included in their project. So these are just the requirements, but most of these things aren't too onerous. Davis Bacon prevailing wages would be the kind of more onerous part of the grant requirements, and that's again where we would be. I'd be doing the compliance stuff for that to make sure the contractors are following those rules that we reducing. Then the HUD 2880, this is just another kind of general application one. There's a couple of questions here There's asking if it's, that it doesn't apply since it's a CDBG block grant. And then the other one is if you anticipate, getting $200,000 of HUD money during this fiscal year, which you wouldn't because you haven't applied for any other HUD funds for this project. So the second page, nothing has to be filled out with that. Those are the so those, yeah, that's mainly it for like the items that the mayor would decided to order this in the application. The other parts are gonna be the budget, grant application, or budget, grant narrative, kind of describing the project and how to do the documentation of the procurement for the landscape architect, documentation of this public meeting, submitting a floodplain map to show that it's not a floodplain, those kinds of things. Are the other components of the application. So that's all I have, unless Jennifer, you had other things you wanted to cover, or are there any other questions from the council?
So unless the council has additional questions.
No questions? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing at 7:25.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Staff reports. Public Works Director, do you have any additional input to us? City Engineer, do you have any additional? We'll move on to old business. Open discussion on the alley right-of-way maintenance discussion.
Okay, so from our last conversations with the alley right-of-way maintenance discussion, I've put together a binder with kind of trying to develop a process, which I believe Councilmember Light maybe had asked to, that we put together kind of a case by case of the discussions of different alleys. So just to be specific, previously, about probably over a year ago, the city started looking at current areas within the city that are no utilities not maintained, no utilities maintained, utilities not maintained, and utilities maintained, and started to try and color code some of these specific alleys and right-of-ways. And the purpose of this is trying to get past some of the language of we're going to do something because we've always done it, or nobody knows why we started to maintain something, but we've always just continued to do it. So we were looking for a process to try and start standardizing what maintained, not maintained looks like. And to be clear, the discussion tonight is not about a vacation, which is also something that I think the language there is getting confused. That a vacation is when the city actually vacates the property and no longer owns it or has an easement to that. We are not making that discussion tonight. We're looking at maintenance of alleys and right-of-ways. So after putting together the map with the city engineer and public works superintendent, we did this by alley ID. I feel very specific that this is done by alley ID because when you talk about systems and organizations and making decisions, these things should be independent of a person or personnel. So in talking about these are alley IDs. They are not somebody's personal driveway or parking And so that's kind of where we then color coded some of these things, made very specific notes. And so I then went to each of the specific cases that are brought up. There are 3 of them, which I will refer to as E13, E04, and W0405. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this specific tabs and what you'll find within your binder. I went out and took, first of all, real life pictures, because I do believe that it's important that if we're going to have this discussion, that everybody see in real time where specifically we're talking about, what it actually looks like and what's currently there. We then also went on to Beacon, so know that this is not, this is just off Beacon, so property lines are not exact on Beacon. We are just trying to do this the best we can. The other thing that you'll find is some information that myself, the Public Works superintendent, as well as the engineer, looked at different options and how some of these maintenance would look. Again, it's about standardizing a process and getting to the point of what maintenance looks like and what is the standard maintenance. So, so we've put together some things there with actual cost estimates. Then I have also included, after each case, I also included 2 very specific samples, and the purpose behind C01 and C02 is to give the council and the mayor a real-time look at current status. So for example, if we have a utilities maintained, what does that look like if it is an alley or a right-of-way that is chip sealed? And what does that look like if it is current status utilities maintained at a grade and gravel, and what that looks like? So again, getting to a very specific standardized process of what these should look like if they are going to be considered maintained. So do you have questions so far before we get started in terms of a specific? So tonight, I don't believe, we don't necessarily have anything that is an action on the table, but more specifically, looking at what the real documents show and looking at what the process for the council to start being able to make decisions on when we make a decision to maintain and not maintain an alley or a right-of-way.
We're just referencing these first 3, correct?
So right now, if you were to go through all of the alleyways and the right-of-ways in town, we currently have where it is no utilities maintained, which is yellow. We currently have 3 of those. Is that correct? We have 3, which are the 3 cases that I am bringing forth. So the first case that was brought up was E13 is the alley ID. That specific case was brought up simply because of the previous vacation, the partial vacation that was done over on East Washington. So if you take a look at behind the E13 tab, during that time, there was a discussion about the street and there being a lip between the street and the alley. And the first picture there that you can see is what that lip would look like. So if the city were, whether this is a no utilities not maintained, which if you guys are looking for where I'm at, it's this picture right behind E13 tab. So each case has a tab. This one is E13. This specific lip right here, whether this is no utilities or not maintained, this is where the street meets the alley or the right-of-way in this particular situation. This would be where the city would continue to still dump gravel there to maintain that portion of the street. If you look at the second page, this is very specific, looking at an alley, the E13 alley, where there are no utilities, but it is currently maintained, so that you can see that there is a driveway on, the house that's right there to the right on the picture. So that shows going, do you see where we're at, Mayor, or?
I'm finding a picture that doesn't appear to be what it's labeled. So this one right here,
Yes.
is not E13.
There, it is the 13, it's a view that I'm going to discuss. what that
Okay,
view
thank
is.
you.
Okay, so on the current view, which is the second page there, that would show you the one resident that lives to the right. And the home that is to the left in the picture, that home does have a driveway that is not necessarily this particular alleyway. So the third picture there is just another view. If you go to the next picture, this shows a view going up that particular alley. And then if you turn the page, it's coming around that corner, which is where you can see a garage that leads to one property owner's garage, second garage, if that's what you call it. Then if you turn the page again, this is actually a picture that shows down the alley, which is the portion that was partially vacated. But as you go down there and you see that that is grass, all grass, in between the garage and where we partially vacated, there is an alley that the city does currently maintain with an easement to the utility that's there, that I believe is a storm utility. So the city still has access to that. So in looking at this particular option, because this is the first one that we looked at, the next page you'll see, this is just the options that the city engineer went through, option 1A, 1B, option 2A, 2B. And after reviewing those options, which we included in here, giving what looks to be, and maybe I can even refer to Shane on this, that we're looking to try and get to what we would consider, if the city were to maintain an alley, that we have to have a certain standard that this alley meets so that we can maintain it. The question is, does the city want to put in the money to get it to that standard so that a dump truck could go down and put gravel, or a dump truck could possibly plow? The reason for showing this is we also, as city council, we also have to look at how city resources are used and how it benefits the city. So these are the different things. Shane, I'm just gonna kind of maybe turn it over to you just a little bit, if you don't mind sharing some of the information that you provided to us, where we were then making a decision of this would probably be the best option.
Yeah, so to Jennifer's point, it's not just putting down a little bit of gravel. Driving a personal vehicle is different than driving city maintenance equipment. Putting some gravel down over some grass. If the city wants to maintain a roadway as a roadway, the city should establish a standard for the roadway. And what we looked at was, in those examples that Jennifer pointed out, was a 22-foot wide gravel drive or a 26-foot wide gravel drive. And we looked at extending it east and then turning north to get to that back driveway as one option. We're going all the way up to that storm sewer as the other option. So those were options 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B that Jennifer was referring to. But if you're gonna put in, and you can see those cost estimates, because you're gonna want to cut out the topsoil, all the grass in there, put in appropriate rock to get it maintained as a roadway, not just a private driveway, as a city street. So you're talking tens of thousands of dollars to do that. So, coordinating with Trent, it's like, we're gonna do it, we wanna take it all the way up to the storm sewer. and we want to do it 26-foot wide, so you can get two-way traffic in there, so you can get the maintenance, the city's maintenance equipment in there. So that's what we're looking at. We're not just looking at putting down some rock periodically here and there. It's to Jennifer's point, if you're gonna do it, you need to be consistent, on all of these. Each situation is unique, but they're all kind of grouped together. They serve one or two lots, maybe three. And they're kind of used as driveways, but if the city wants to maintain them, the city should maintain them as a street, and then what is the city standard for those streets? Does that make sense?
So to that, thank you very much, Shane. So to that, again, we have three that the city currently has no utilities that we are maintaining. So if you take a look at E04, which is the second example, like I said, there are three in town that the city is currently still maintaining. So the second example, E04, this would be a specific alleyway that has three property owners that are currently accessing this. But what I want to note on here is that all three property owners also have street access. So all three of these property owners have street access to their home, driveway, garage. This is currently being maintained for the three property owners that are currently here. Now, there are other cities that, in my research that I found, that typically when it becomes a no utilities not maintained, like for this example, it would be the responsibility of the three property owners that are currently utilizing it to, snow plow, split the cost, do those things. The next one that I included that is a no utilities currently maintained is the W0405. This one actually, I have a current picture here where it shows just the one property owner. It's almost easier if you turn the page to look at the beacon, where this particular alley is actually W04, W05, where it looks like part of it is a personal driveway, and the second portion of it, which is W04, is actually grassed over all the way to the fence. Which again, right now, I believe that this particular property owner, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, has chosen to maintain that at this time. However, the city technically is still responsible for the grass that you can see that is the other portion of it. So again, within the city, we have these three examples to start with for the no utilities that are currently maintained. And then behind that are the two examples, which kind of gets to the point of the standard that Shane was discussing in terms of, is this a standard utilities maintained that we would do chip seal, or is it something that could be utilities maintained, an example of grade and gravel, and what that would look like?
So like, I guess it's W4, W5. Do we need to retain that alleyway in some way, or could it be vacated?
Which one?
It would be 405. So we have no utilities maintained for part of it, and then no utilities not maintained for the grass part.
No, technically they're both no utilities maintained. So it would be very similar to the E13 where there's grass. Technically, it's still supposed to be maintained according to our current standard.
I was just looking at this map with the legend. But either way, I guess what I'm going is if there's no utilities and they're not, we choose to not maintain them. Does the city have any reason to retain ownership, or could we, go through the vacate process on it? Maybe that's this guy right here.
And you're specifically asking about the vacate question with W0405?
I think so, maybe I'm looking at I got my areas mixed up. Yeah, yeah.
0405.
Yeah, this is this
Zero.
right here. This one?
Yeah, that one there, we can't vacate it, because if we did, this property owner would get half of each of them, which would cut this guy's garage access off. That would have to go with a vacation with an easement. If we did it.
Got it.
Okay?
So right now, there is not action per se on the council agenda. This is providing the information, the background, the conversation. Go ahead, Trent.
Let me, so I think from a staff level, when we encounter complaints or requests on alleys, such as we've heard in public input, there is no defined policy that the city council has set for us to determine what alleys should be maintained, which ones should be graded, which ones should be plowed. And within a 2-block radius of the alley in question in public input, we have an alley that the city owns, does not maintain the 2 properties access from. 2 blocks the other direction, we have a city right-of-way that has served 1 resident that the city has chose not to maintain at some point in the past, and the property owner does. And to be clear, when we talk about sprinkling gravel in here or there, that isn't maintaining. That's what continues to drive the complaints, because there's no clarity at the staff level on what we're supposed to be doing on publicly owned road that isn't a through street. There's no defined policy at which the council has set that says, yes, we are going to maintain this stretch of road to function as a driveway, even though it's public property. The city's going to do that. And then if we are going to do that, that's where Shane's saying we need to start, if we're going to do that, we need to do that at a level that eliminates the complaints and the request for rock, or you plowed the snow in front of my wood pile, or you got into the sod because the alley isn't built wide enough for snow removal equipment to go in there, or a piece of our equipment gets stuck in their yard because it can't see where it is because it's only 12 foot wide instead of 26 foot wide that would allow it. That's what I think when Shane and I are speaking to the council, it has got to work towards a policy that when the city administrator's office calls and says, I have a complaint or a request for gravel at this, or why wasn't the snow plowed in this alley, we have something to answer to. I can't speak to any of these, and I've been here for a while, as to why we do any of them other than the 2 in the downtown block, because there are city-owned utilities in them, and they're servicing the post office, which is taking delivery of mail, and that's why that alley was seal coated and maintained, and it is wide enough to get 2 vehicles by each other in it. So there is no consistency in how the city has chose to do this. In fairness to the people that are using them, I guess it makes it difficult for us at the staff level and for them using it to have any clarity on what either of us are supposed to be doing without, them being irritated at the lack of our response because we don't have clarity. And we at a staff level just can't pick and choose which alleys that we are gonna go put rock in for 2 residences or 3, and which ones we're not. It's not real, it's not functional, it's not a policy, it's not how to navigate this. So I think that's what our input from Shane and I's level to Jennifer is saying, here's what, if we're gonna maintain an alley, here's what you should be doing, and calling that your minimum your minimum standard. And then it's up to council to decide which of these alleys should rise to that level to warrant that sort of maintenance by the city.
So is the ask to make really an alley and right of way ordinance? I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right? And then from there, based on what policy we're proposing and approving, we get to that point, then we make decisions on this. Is that what I'm hearing?
So through this process, in doing this work, I've gone back and forth with drafting and redrafting what I think could look like a policy, to exactly what Trent's saying, that, we have to come to a consensus of what we are going to consider maintenance and what we're going to consider not maintenance and what we're going to standardize and not standardize. And I do appreciate the respect to the property owners here, because this, unfortunately, please don't think that this is about a property owner. It really isn't, which is why, for a purpose like this, it has to be an alley ID. Because these processes and decisions have to be made regardless of who is in a house or who is at a certain place in time. When I leave here, we have to have a process that moves forward regardless of who the personnel are. I think that goes to what Trent is saying, in that we are a small town, but there are certain things that we can't always do things just because that's the way it's always been done. The reason for that is just exactly the example that he said. It's too difficult for staff to receive a complaint regarding an alley, and we choose to do it for one person and then we choose not to do it for another person. And that is becoming extremely difficult when there's not a process for the staff to follow. People are angry with us personally, and we can't handle that in a sense that we're taking it because we don't have a process. So what I would like to do is, yes, develop, I believe there's already ordinance there. I think what we need to do is define what we want the policy to look like, what we want the standard to look like, and then, yes, we need to decide if this is an alleyway that property owners are going to choose to continue to use, then is that something in this particular situation or case that's their responsibility as a property owner to do that? Or is it something that we have to choose to say it needs to be a standard street right of way or alley, therefore it needs to be brought up to be maintained as such? Which is why we did the pictures. We're trying to do these things to give you an idea that it's not about individual people, it's not about individual properties, it's about trying to develop a process that can be followed and maintained, regardless of who's here and who's not.
I just do have a question. Okay, say we stop maintaining, didn't put the gravel out. And is it the homeowners that live around that area, is their responsibility to mow that alley now? Or is the city still gonna mow that?
No.
Because it's city-owned property, so.
Are you discussing something very specific, or are you
No,
just saying in general?
I'm just in general, say, this lane back here, that they put gravel back there, okay, say we let that grow up, that's city property. Who has to maintain it and mow that?
That's normally the case of the adjacent homeowners. Over by us, we mow the right of way that still belongs to the city.
Yeah, I understand, I got two on my property and I maintain them, but it's just.
And that's been
But
standard.
if they decide just to let it grow and not take care of it, because it's technically city's property and not their property, are they gonna get in trouble for that?
And again, I think we're discussing the same thing. There's no ordinance really laid out to say who does it, who doesn't.
Okay.
So I think that's the direction that Trent's trying to say, is we gotta figure out what ordinance we wanna actually put in place, what gets maintained, how it gets maintained, that type of thing. I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to hear. that
Yeah, and I think in the examples, you can see that. So for example, some property owners choose to use more of a driveway, so it becomes something that has gravel on it. Maybe it has some gravel on it because there's some gravel on there because that's what was previously done by the city. Some of them are overgrown and adjacent property owners mow that. That's where we have to decide what is the current status? Are we going to leave it, no utilities maintained? In these specific cases that we're talking about, that's why we had the engineer put together the proposals of, if we're going to standardize this and make this a public street that we're going to maintain, we have to get it to a standard level then, so that it's not overgrown and needing to be mowed. There has to be a decision made and a policy in place to say, how do we move forward? So that it's not something where it's, yep, we're gonna do it for this person, but we're not for this, but yet we're not making that decision based on actual information.
I think that's what I was gonna make a comment as well, is I've actually kind of looked around at some of the local towns, you know, near this, across the state, that type of stuff. Some have ordinances that actually lay out the way the alleys are supposed to be maintained. Some don't, you know, but we kind of follow into that. We don't have identification on what needs to and what doesn't. But so there are some, I think we definitely need to start looking at what needs to be maintained, how it needs to be maintained, you know, get a schedule. Even with exactly what you stated, summertime comes, you know, maybe there isn't an alleyway anymore, because a lot of smaller towns have gone away from letting alleys go. Homeowners in some areas are responsible for maintaining that, and in other ones, it's the city that owns it. So I think definitely have to try and find a way to get a policy to state that.
I think the biggest one with this one, the three examples here, is that the city doesn't have the utilities there, which is why we're making the discussion of, do we continue to have a level of maintenance if there's no utilities there?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on an alley and it was never plowed by the city that I lived in. It was pretty much the homeowner's responsibility. More often than not, it didn't get plowed or snowblowed at all. The gravel was loosely maintained by the city. If you requested gravel, it might come, but they were, you know, they were more, had a higher traffic volume than say these, but plowing of alleys, I think, is pretty rare, relatively rare. But, my only concern is just if we chose not to maintain like this specifically, just making sure that we outline the expectation of the adjacent homeowners, because if well, I'm gonna pay you to put gravel down, you didn't pay, you didn't help, or that concern of who's paying, who's not paying, who's plowing, who's not plowing. Just would want to make sure we avoid those kinds of controversy.
At that point, can we just vacate that alley and give the homeowners the option to purchase that?
I think that's kind of where I was going with that, but I don't know that that's an option in all of those unless there was an agreement, but maybe some of these, we need that access for the utility, I don't know. Guess we have to look at it case by case.
You said you already started a draft?
I started a draft policy that simply defines certain things in terms of right-of-way, in terms of alley, what does not maintained look like, no utilities maintained, just trying to get an idea that would give better guidance. It's in no shape or form to share right now as a public document, but I'm just saying, we wanted to get this process started for the same reason, mowing, maintain, not maintain. I think the biggest purpose tonight was I wanted to make sure that I had binders prepared because that was a request from the last meeting to provide information, to provide pictures if council members did not get an opportunity to go look so that you could see specifically the three that we're discussing that are the no utilities that the city's currently still maintaining. And then to elicit the expertise of the engineer to get us to a standard, and what that standard would look like, what the cost of that standard could be, to help us move forward with such policy or some of this decision-making. I would have to look more closely, I think, at specific things. I didn't look at whether or not these would be considered a vacation. I didn't even look at that, actually.
After I looked at these pictures a little closer, referencing back to E13, I see that there's power lines in there. So, just kind of out of curiosity, we would probably still need to have some kind of road base there for like line to get in, possibly to fix.
I don't see a utility pole. There is.
Right here is what I'm looking at, the power lines coming through the property. Is what I'm seeing here. I was just.
I think if you read the franchise agreement, anywhere they're operating within a city utility easement or right of way, the utility company's responsible for their own access.
Okay.
So
Whether it's USA Communications or Alliant Energy or the RAC.
Okay.
Because you go throughout town, you'll find their poles are in places there aren't gravel access for ways.
So if they had you back there, it's their responsibility for throwing rock down or whatever.
Or fixing it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
So, like I said, there's not action on tonight. It was to bring forth more information. If there's a request for more information before possibly developing a draft policy or next steps, please let me know. This, of course, took a considerable chunk of time to put together, so if there's something in here that's incomplete or you feel like you need something else to demonstrate the specifics of these particular cases, let me know. Otherwise, I believe the next step would be to look at the ordinances, which I don't believe are what's going to help us as much as developing a draft policy that gets at what we would expect that to be. And then once there's a draft policy, then yes, I believe that there needs to be solid decision on to start at least 3 properties that have been identified in the binder. Simply because that's the logical place to start because the city does not have utilities.
I'm good with that. I think that's a good next step. Get it drafted. I don't know if you want, council person's assistance working through that, but I think that's what I would say is we need to put together an ordinance, or to revise our existing ordinance, I guess, right? Clarify.
Yeah, I think,
Oh, that's vacation.
I don't know
That's-
that our current alley, like the definitions in public streets, I'm not really sure at this point that it's actually an ordinance, that it would be more policy driven.
I didn't find it.
No.
No, where there are discussions of alley and right of way, it's within multiple. So that's why I feel like the best avenue would probably be to draft a policy and part of that policy be a level or a standard of maintenance and what that would look like. And I think that that could be the help of the documents that the city engineers already put together. And then basically a narrative that kind of gets at, is this a maintain, not maintain, has city infrastructure, no infrastructure? You guys know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like what has already been presented, but so if there's not more on that, again, it's not specifically for action, but more gathering of information to help make better decisions on developing a solid process, I think would be good.
So more gathering of information. And if council members would send you any requests that are pertinent between now and the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Anything else? Otherwise, I think just working on this revision of maybe getting a draft policy to a place that could be presented to council, maybe could be something that I'll work on. If that's-
Is there any other questions before we close the discussion? New business. Discussion on the community development block grant pocket park.
Thank you. So these particular, resolutions, A, B, C, and D are all portions of what Tom has presented from the public hearing, which are specific to the grant. So initially, we had done, 2026-216, I believe, which was just giving us permission to move forward with the grant process. These are more specific to each of the requirements, for the grant application, which is what Tom went through. So, did you have specific questions about some of those? We do have, if you look at D, McClure was awarded the landscape RFQ if we were, given the, grant funding. So we do have 2026-248, which is a master services agreement. That would be the full agreement if the city were to have received the funding. In there specifically, I believe that it is Exhibit C, I think I put it in the email, is the sub-consultant contract, which basically is we would be paying them hourly from now until we submit the grant for any work that is accrued between now and then. I don't want that to scare you, but we did put in there like a do not exceed or not to exceed, I think of 12,000, which would include renderings, any grant work that they do leading up to that, which includes the budget, which also includes project timeline, anything like that. I did specifically ask them if they really thought that we would get to that number, and the answer was no. But they do put that in there because it is hourly, and suddenly the city's asking and requesting a lot of work between now and then, that they would be paid hourly for that. So I did want to specifically point that piece of the contract out, because that's the piece of the contract that we would be working on from now until the grant's submitted on the 22nd. Otherwise, the other three are approving the application, and I did go in when I initially sent you these drafts. Those were highlighted in blank, but now that we did get the timeline as well as the project in here, we do actually have those numbers. So I've gone into them and provided you, I think it's on your desk, the numbers in 245, 246, and 247. So all of those are in the copies now that you have on your desk. And previously those drafts were highlighted and that was not filled in, and they are filled in now.
On 246, there's this just minor typo.
Yes, I caught that. Is it the exclamation point? I did circle that and highlight it. So just for reference to Jeff's, I knew I had an error. I accidentally put an exclamation point for my one, and it wasn't really 1,625. I have circled that, so when I go in and do that, I have that correction to make.
So ultimately, we could approve all of these, but if we don't get the response and the amount for them on my percentage,
It's all,
right?
It's a moot point, but
Well, it would be a moot point until February if we wanted to, because I believe it would reopen again, was it February that this opened up? So like if we didn't get it, but we have gone through the work and we decide we wanna do it when it opens back up in February, the clinical-
Yeah, you wouldn't need to procure a design professional again. So yeah, I've worked on grants before where, an application either, has been submitted and not, I have worked on grants before where an application was submitted and not approved the first time around, and then it was approved the second time around. So, this is the first year for this program, so I would anticipate that it would, I think the intention is to have that as kind of their permanent program for, the next few years. Because they just went through the process of updating their programs.
and if they don't, is it a up or down on the amount we're requesting, or would they say, we'll award you $80,000? Or is it only the amount you request?
It could be possible that they would fund a lesser amount. So, but what cities are eligible for is up to $150,000. So,
So if they came back and it was a lesser amount, then we'd have to go to the drawing board.
make some adjustments, yeah.
we can make a decision then again.
Would our match change then? Because the
Well, the
award,
match is 3-1,
It's a percentage, yeah, so
so.
and I would assume if we didn't get it, and we wanted to do it again in February, we would have another resolution for council at that time to say, yes, resubmit it in February.
Mhm.
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
that might
these would
have
still
to-
be requirements then, so these are
That might have to-
contingent on, yes, receiving a CDBG grant
review,
fund.
but you wouldn't need to re-procure for,
Right.
So really just item D. Sorry.
Yes, the contract part,
I should probably, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what they're gonna be in.
Yes.
Okay, well, just to clarify your question, are you asking, would we still need to redo resolutions A, B, C, and D?
We would probably because they're
A different,
pricing
yes,
changes.
yes. So yes, so these are resolutions that are contingent with this particular grant application and this
Okay.
particular public hearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I would say I do think Dwight's comment is valid. Maintenance of this would be significant, I think, just how it's drawn. So I think that it's important we remember that. Our public works, I know we've got an additional mower lined up for the summer, which I would assume that will help allow additional support of parks and vegetation and things like that. So, I mean, it's a valid concern. There's definitely, it's not, you can't just plant stuff along the way. Hopefully these are lower maintenance plants.
I mean, I don't want anybody to be PO'd at me, but I mean, all in all, kind of makes sense to take care of some of the projects you got going first, finish them up. Oh, that's right, I forgot I can't speak.
I was just commenting that I think it's valid. That's all. I think we need to, we want to talk about plans, being prepared, having policies. If we're going to go through all this effort and have a beautiful pocket park, which I think it would be amazing because there's a demand for it, it can't be ignored. It just can't be. So.
Get over real quick.
Right. So I just, I think that is something we need to consider.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
That if you don't have somebody to maintain it, it's gonna overgrow real quick.
Right.
Yeah. She asked what I said.
We'll have a discussion about the maintenance. The application window on this was, IUB actually kind of really frustrated me, because they put the application deadline for the new programs that they announced in February, with a May deadline. And typically I would have wanted to like get started a little bit earlier on a grant application, but that was the window that they provided. So we'll have we need to include a maintenance plan as part of the application, so Jennifer and I will work on that for have a good plan in place. Jennifer, I guess we have, I would assume the city's kind of maintaining what's there already. Right? It would be a different type of maintenance project.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the resolutions 2026, 245, 246, 247, and 248?
You wanna do them all together?
We can do them all together. They're all contingent on the grant being approved.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve 2026-245 through 248.
Second. Vasky,
Yes.
Light,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Huber,
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Brings us to legal RFP review. Discussion.
So the legal RFPs were sent to council members and evaluation rubrics were sent out to the council. We did have a small committee that met to review the legal RFPs. Was that Monday or yesterday? Yesterday. And so the city is recommending resolution 2026-239, which would be awarding the RFP, oh goodness, I don't even have it in front of me, to Simmons Perrine Law Firm, which is the current city attorney.
I'll make a motion to approve 2026-239, awarding the RFP for municipal legal services and appointing the city attorney to Simmons Prime.
I second.
Vasky,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Light,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Huber.
Yes.
Discussion on City of Urbana Memorial Bench Program.
So we have had multiple requests actually that had been coming in when the pollinator park was created. We had a couple of interests in people in the community wanting to do park dedications, purchasing a bench and dedicating that then to a loved one as a memorial bench. So the Parks Committee has been working on that. And Nathan provided a draft of what that city memorial program and application could look like, which is what I sent to the council. And because this has not been done previously, I did do a resolution, and this would not include a memorial bench at Veterans Park. This would be a different memorial bench that could be throughout the city. I think that the Veterans Memorial would be discussed separately because those discussions have previously happened, and if there were to be a memorial bench at Veterans Park, the discussion was that those would need to meet the granite higher level to match the current park that is there. So this would be a city memorial bench program application that could go to the pollinator parks or the, possibly to Pocket Park or even currently like at Central Park. So this is more a concrete type bench memorial that would be done, and that's what the Parks has been working on.
I think it's great. I motion to approve 2026-244.
One moment.
Oh, sorry.
May the mayor ask a question?
Of course.
The cost for the memorial, does that, shall we say, include perpetual care of the memorial bench? Or is that just the installed cost?
No, that would include, like, I would assume, like, the maintenance level, because it would be maintained by the city. I mean, unless somebody else wanted to personally maintain it, but it would be maintained by the city. So for example, I'm assuming like if a bench were to crack or for some reason, that would be maintained by the city. Is that your question?
The question is the, shall we say, donation level high enough to cover? the
Yes, they
installed
believe
cost?
so,
That
yes.
was a question. Thank you. You need to make your motion.
I motion to approve 2026-244.
I second.
Bendel,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Huber,
Yes.
Basky,
Yes.
Light?
Yep.
I make a
Do I have-
motion,
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
I don't want to take up much time.
Yeah.
I know, I said a few questions. One brought up, I'll run it through, we can't do it as one handful at the end.
Yeah, this is a storm.
Because the alleys in the other part of town.
It's actually-
That's the case.
That's it, I bet it was.
I understand that it's in the old part of town. It's just, you can't understand that it would take us $40,000.
That's
exactly right, actually.
What it costs us to maintain. Being able to street, out there, it's good.
No.
Business.
Well, and I want to,
It's
that's my saying, there's nothing.
How about that? Okay.
So it's
That's
your
well, that
okay, so I'm gonna
county-
give it to you this week, so you're gonna be okay, and we don't have to maintain
I know. He wants to
expenses on the
know.
city, are going to the ad.
Okay.
Times three, now you're gonna be added to your tax.
No,
amount. No, we brought it down.